Gallen. Today we are in Broadhursts Bookshop in Southport and I'm here with Sam. Sam, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Yes, nice to meet you. Like I said, I'm doing my first book sign here today. I'm Sam Jalloh. I'm the author of this new book, Can't Break the African Spirit. So I live here in Southport and here we are today.
Yeah, and this is your second book.
Yes.
Can't Break the African Spirit, as you said. And do you want to tell us a bit about it and about what it's about?
Yes, the book itself is about the history of Africa because so many things have happened in Africa which the whole world is unknown to, and especially when it comes to exploitation and the resources in Africa, and for the past few hundred years and up to this day, as rich as Africa is still one of the poorest continents on the planet. So this book is to highlight the problem, what is causing the poverty, war, and then child soldiers and all these sort of things that goes on in Africa which the whole world doesn't know about. So so many highlights, but also there's a lot of reference to the book which I explain about how as humanity we can come together as one family to make this world a better place.
And this is your second book. Your first book, Tennis Saved My Life.
Yeah.
What made you kind of choose to perhaps go down a darker route and away from kind of tennis and a more political side of things? What was kind of the change?
Well, my first book actually, How Tennis Saved My Life, that's because when I travel around the world, people ask me, because Sierra Leone is not known for tennis. Sierra Leone is known for the trouble which happened for 11 years in the 90s. So, and then people say, well, your tennis is good, but how did you manage to play tennis when there was war? So I will explain this to people, and then I remember meeting Virginia Wade, who was a former British player, and then she keeps saying to me, oh, you got to, write your history, you got to tell your story, because this would be good to inspire other children. So that's where it come about, and through people asking me about my story all the time, then I decided, to write my story, even though there's so many dark things in my story which I never even explained to my own children, but when they read the book, they find that out. So people are a little bit shocked. But now also when I travel around the world to go to the second book, is that people will ask me a lot of questions about why is Africa poor, why is this happening in Africa. So I decided one of the best ways to do this is to tell our story from an African point of view.
Yeah, and you specifically say this is our story, not just your story.
Yeah.
So who are you kind of giving a voice to, would you say? Who are you speaking for when you write this?
I'm speaking for not just the Africans, I'm speaking for every humanity, people who don't understand the history of Africa, because there's a lot of people who have met around the world who are very much sympathetic with Africa, what's going on, because they can see on the news the poverty. So people always asking me and saying, why is Africa, there is so much problem going on. So this book speaks for everyone, not just for African. It's our story, meaning it's coming from an African perspective, because most books that are written about Africa aren't even written by Africans. And some of the people who actually wrote some of this book have never even stepped foot in Africa. And I've been fortunate enough to travel to all over Africa, and I've seen, I was born there, so I know what the problem is. So this book speaks to everyone. There's a lot of, like I said, advice to the younger African generation, what they should do, what they should look for, and how they should take education seriously and use the resources of Africa to make Africa a better place.
And you said that people you come across don't know a lot about the history of Africa. Why do you think that is? Is there not enough education about it? Should we be educating more at school maybe about it, or what's the reason behind it?
Yes, I think we should be more educated about it, because also if you remember when this George Floyd thing started, and I wrote a chapter in the book called If It Wasn't For Us, so to show the contribution what Africa has done for the world in terms of innovation, education, sports and entertainment, science and all this kind of stuff. So I think if the whole world also comes to understand that we are not just people who just run and be good in sports, but if you look at some of the creation, like the GPS on your phone, is created by a black woman. And if you look at the greatest mathematician who helped NASA, they're black. If you look at the 3 kids who have the most IQ in the world, they are black. And this is not about a racial thing. I think if other people know that a lot of the things that they use in the house are created by other race and other people, then maybe people will start respecting people more, because racism only is there because people don't know much about other people. So I highlight in the book all this kind of contribution that black people have made, and say if we come together and just don't disrespect each other and love each other like you love yourself, as all religion preach, even though I'm not a religious preacher, but this world will be a better place. I mean, look at all my friends who have come today to support me.
It's very busy.
Yeah. So my friends are not from Africa, they're not, but we all love each other. We come together and understand each other and respect each other, and I think for me that's my wish for the world. Yeah.
And obviously you fully understand the difficulties of you've lived in Africa, and you understand, even as a child, the difficulties living there. So what do you think for us maybe who have never experienced that, the hardest thing for us to kind of understand about that? Obviously I've never been to Africa, I've never lived there, but what's the hardest thing for us to kind of
I think the hardest thing for people to understand is that, for example, colonization was not to benefit the African people. Right? Colonization was to rip the people, and Europe today, it is what it is because of Africa.
Yeah.
So I put all this in the book. France, for example, the French government are taking $500 million from 14 African countries every year, and they also take these countries' resources. So, but when you go to France, they look at Africa like we're primitive, like we're backward, uneducated, but the oldest universities in the world are found in Africa. So people don't know about this. So I think more education for people who don't know the history of Africa, and not only the education, but also people should understand that Europe is rich today because of Africa, including Great Britain, Germany, obviously. So these countries, that's why they went to Africa for hundreds of years, taking all the resources for almost free, and to build the European economy.
So to just bring sport into it a little bit, in society today it's so hard to fall into gangs and violence, especially with social media. Do you think, or how important do you think sport is from kind of steering children away from that kind of darker route that they could take potentially?
I always said, I had somebody said, in the Second World War, when the Germans, they stopped one day, and the British, they play football together. So if you can put sport between people, it can bring them together and show some kind of care and respect for each other. And I think for me, if I have one dream, is to make sure that everybody plays sport. It doesn't necessarily have to be tennis. It can mean anything, because sport and music are the two biggest languages in the whole world. It doesn't matter which language you speak, what's your race or whatever, you still always understand music and sport. So sport is a very good tool to put people together.
Thank you so much for talking. If anyone would like to find more about the book, quickly, how can they do it?
They can go on Amazon, or you can go on Google and just type in my name, Sam Jalloh's book, or you can type in Can't Break the African Spirit, or you can follow me on social media, and then you can able to find out more.
Okay. As Sam said, you can find it online, or you can also find the book here at Broadhurst Bookshop in Southport.
There we go. It's the best bookshop in the world. Thank you. Okay, sorry.